That's it. I'll get you a little bit on it. I'll send it to you. So, all right. Everything's good. We're about here to hear Chris Holley do the greatest press conference ever in the city of Pensacola. All right. Take care, Senator. All right. All right, take care, bye.
Throw me on the bus, Rick. All right.
Nah. Well, we just got to sit the ground with us.
Should I wait till 9:30 or start?
Wait, is Andrew here yet?
Getting our lashes.
He wasn't on the radio this morning, so.
Oh, he wasn't?
vacation.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he's off this week.
Oh, okay.
Well, why don't I go ahead and get started? I'm going to lead with something that's what I don't know a whole lot about, but it's a story that evolved yesterday, and I don't know how much the media's gotten a hold of it. We had a city employee, Mr. Osborne, that he does IT work at the police department, and a group went diving, and he didn't come up. And so for 7 hours, we as a staff were scrambling to identify next of kin and what we could do, and getting bits and pieces. And the good news is that after being in the water for 7 hours plus, drifting over 9 miles, they found him. So my understanding is he hasn't been really available in the media, which is fine. The guy's pretty dang sore, as you'd expect if you were in the water for that length of time. But when a member of your family, your immediate employee family, goes through something like that, your heart goes out to what the family went through, and of course what he went through. Chief has some other information. If you need to get more details, we did talk to him this morning. I guess he's willing to talk about his ordeal, but the great news is that he's okay and still with us. So start with that. I'm going to go over the organizational stuff because that's my area of expertise. We all know the mayor's on leave still. He's having a good time. We get photos from he and his family regularly, so they're having a good time. And I pretty much left him alone. Some of the bigger things that we're working on this week is our ongoing efforts to focus on our organization and the needs of our organization. So Mr. Barker and I will be beginning our one-on-one meetings with council members today on our budget. Budget's a lot of work. Dick and his staff have put a lot of effort into it over the last probably 3 months plus. And so we'll be meeting with council members and explaining that. The focus of the budget, in my opinion, is on our organization. Our suggested focus is on our organization. So if you followed the results of the employee engagement survey, well, the number one issue was compensation. When you look at the history of what's happened with the organization, we just haven't focused on them. We've been working on a paying class plan for the past, since the whole time I've been here, 6-7 months. We're going to discuss that plan with our management team later in the week. Attorney's office and our staff's been working on our HR manual, which all know was kind of pulled off the table, so to speak, back last administration. And we feel strongly that we have to have, as an organization, a good HR manual. So we'll be talking about those. The pay plan, that is part of the budget. We're proposing adjustments to get us to market on our pay, and we're proposing a performance appraisal process that can lead to up to 2% of salary adjustment for high performers in our organization. We have existing agreements with our bargaining units. We'll have to sit down with them and talk more about how we implement the pay plan and the performance appraisal they'll have the option of moving forward and listening or taking the benefits that they negotiated already. Quick update on some of the staffing changes. So John Pittman began work as our sanitation director last week. So we're excited to have John on board. Looking for good things for leadership there in sanitation. A week from today, Kareth Fiddler, our assistant city administrator, will start. He'll actually be in town starting on Wednesday. We've got a couple of meetings with him late this week. The exciting news on the 7th floor is, as of last Monday, the attorney's office is fully staffed, 4 attorneys, 2 legal assistants. Excited to have that, and a week from today, we'll be fully staffed in the mayor's office with a deputy administrator, an assistant administrator, and myself. So looking forward to those changes. We did also extend an offer on the Complete Streets Planner, and which was accepted. Mike Zernick, with a tentative start date of July 29. Mike is he's a ped and bike planner with FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, in their District 5 office, I believe, in DeLand. But we've been looking to fill that spot for the last few months. We're excited that Mike's accepted to come on board our team. We continue to get very close to kind of being fully up to speed in both fire and police. It's been a long process, and as we get these classes to graduate and fill positions in both agencies, I'm excited that we're getting very close to being totally up to staff. It's an ongoing process. It evolves, and we're still looking at better ways to recruit and how we can find the best and brightest to join our team. But it's exciting that we're getting close there. Let me pause there on the organizational stuff. I know that you're probably interested in, I know the state came out with the governor's list of the projects that were vetoed late last week. I can give you the short answer. It was disappointing. We worked hard to get the $1.5 million in the ST project. If you know that project, it's a $210 million project, and at the end of the day, after the help from the state, which they've been very, very helpful this year, so hard to criticize $1.5 million veto when they came forward, with additional FDOT money several months back. But we have that $5 million difference between available funds that we've gotten committed and the final budget. But to be honest, we're still at the airports. We're still about ready to start interviewing for the company that will actually build the hangars. We haven't, gotten final design, and until you have a final design and a construction estimate, you really don't know what your budget is. So even though we say 210, that number could be different, less or more. But we've got 5-year build out on the project. We've got plenty of time to go back to the state next legislative session and explain. I think we just had a lack of, have new governor and new governor's office staff, and I think they just felt like they'd kind of given it the office already this year, and they had asked us a few questions about the project, and we tried to explain those. So I think we just had a little bit more educating to do. We're very close, as I understand, on the EDA grant, federal grant, and we can go through another cycle with that. The governor's closing fund has funded this project, and we can always go back and request additional funds there. So we have plenty of time to go back and fill that $5 million delta, but we were disappointed both on the West Cervantes funding as well as the ST funding. Also, we had a ruling last week that came out. I know everybody's followed the issue with religious symbols in public spaces over the last few years. And Susan's here. I'm not a lawyer, and if I attempted to explain it, I'd mess it up. So if we have questions on that ruling, I'll say it appeared favorable that what we have, we can hold on to, but the case that was not our case, it was a Supreme Court case, but it does seem to recognize the value of those symbols that are in a lot of public places. Next week's holiday week, 4th of July. City Hall will be closed Thursday, July 4th. So that means if you were going to get garbage collection on July 4th, you'll get it on the 3rd. On Wednesday, we'll be getting notice out on all that as well. City Hall will be open on Friday. I'm not sure who will be here, but we will be open. Let me pause. I've rattled on, see if there's questions or if there's something else on your mind that I haven't touched on.
Before we get farther, you mentioned the West Cervantes funding, disappointment around that. What was the amount on that?
I think that was a county request, and I believe it was some of the 500,000. 600, that's what I thought.
Thank you.
But there's also, this project is in the budget, and I can't specifically remember exactly what it is. I think this was, as Chairman May's comments over the weekend it was just kind of to kickstart it, but it is in the FDOT work program, and we're, I think, coming up on some public hearings in the near future on what those improvements will look like. So I think we, again, on that project, will have another bite at the apple next legislative session.
On the pay plan, if I remember correctly, maybe Mr. Barker can clarify for us. Both fire and police union got significant raises in the last negotiation, and also I believe staff has gotten 2 raises over the last 4 years. I understand that was part of the compensation plan, but it seems like the city's made some movement in that direction over the last 4 years. Am I right?
Well, we have used Evergreen Consulting. They're pay plan experts. They have. We were fortunate that the county had gone through an extensive pay plan analysis as well. So we had some fresh data that we could compare ourselves to, and we have challenges. We have dispatchers in the police department that we can't recruit and hire because we're just not competitive in the marketplace. Our building inspectors, we're not competitive. We have diesel mechanics. We can't hire and keep. There's certain segments of our workforce that we've just lost the market on, no matter what has happened. And Rick, I wasn't here, so I don't know what's happened.
Can we get that data on what the raises have been over the last 4 years? Can we get that?
If we have it, you can get it.
Okay. Thank you.
My ask would be, let me see what council thinks about the plan. Right now, it's just a proposal.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to get a history of it, because I think there have been some raises that have been passed out.
We'll start pulling data together on what we've done in the past.
Could you explain a little bit more from your perspective, what is actually going to happen to West Cervantes Street area? Is there anything actually happening, or is you saying something about next legislative session as far as money?
I think that the planning and public comment phase is approaching, I think, next month in July. I thought there was a meeting that was scheduled. So they're showing you ideas, and the ideas that I think they're going to show us are additional pedestrian crosswalks that are properly signed. There's some medians that would be constructed to allow what pedestrian oasis, I think they're even calling it these days, where you have a place in the middle of the road that a pedestrian can stop halfway and not have to get all the way across, the road. So it's some landscaping improvements, additional pedestrian crosswalks, some safety features. But I haven't seen the final plans, and it's in phases.
Will that help slow down that traffic that runs east and west?
That's the idea.
That's the idea?
That's the idea. And make it safer to cross.
Yeah, we actually posted, FDOT is holding a number of information sessions in the next week or two, so we posted all of those on the city's Facebook page too, if you want to look at that. So we're getting that started.
Okay.
So the city's budget, proposed budget that you bring to council, is that publicly available yet?
Certainly we'll have a summary that's available. usually once we meet with council, I think Ann Hill probably puts it on the internet once she gets it, so it'll be out today. There's 11 additional positions in there. There's no millage rate increase request. We had, I think, estimate from the property appraiser was an 8% value increase. Gave us something like an additional $1.5 million, I think, in ad valorem revenue. Yes, sir.
Chris, the final budget should be ready after we get to July. The first number, what we have now is just the June estimate. So we always wait till the second week in July to publish it. So it certainly be ready then. And what we'll be briefing council on is based on the June estimate. Usually about the same, but it could change. We're waiting for that number to come in. Hopefully it'll come in at the end of this week. But
So what Dick talks about is the full budget. That's that one. We just got a summary, and we'll certainly share that with you, the summary.
The pay plan, what kind of pay increases are you talking about for, like, how much would be?
It was, I think, it was at like 3.88% or something on average, something just a little under 4%. And that's just the market adjustment, and that's over, 780 some odd positions. So, but some of the ones that are maybe a little higher than that are the ones that I've kind of mentioned that off the top of my head that were extremely out of that 785 some odd positions, I think we had like 50 that we had to do additional work on that were more than that 3.8% out of market.
On the HR manual, one of the issues that came up was before it was jerked off the website was that the appeal process. Can someone speak to what the suggested appeal process will be with the new HR manual?
I don't think we've kind of finalized it all. I think we're going to have a conversation with the management team later in the week.
Okay.
Someone has to kind of have the last say. In previous lives, the administrator kind of had that ability to listen to grievances and make a determination. Other agencies have used committees, arbitrators, other tools. I don't think we've settled exactly yet, but that's one of the key issues to try to bring in for a landing.
All right. What's the budget for the fully staffed legal department?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I can get it for you.
All
But
right, thank you. I'm not trying to ask hard questions.
yes, you are.
Well,
Yeah, come in a couple of months.
I'm
We
just
missed,
saying,
we missed you.
Sure.
I'll ask an easy one to make up for it. How about that? Actually, I don't know if this is top of mind for you at this point. This was in the Architectural Review Board on the 20th, and they just didn't have the minutes posted yet. UWF Historic Trust applying for to do a number of wallscapes on Palafox and Balin. Is that ringing any bells at this point?
Not with me at this point.
Okay,
but-
yeah, we'll look more. I'll ask Casey after a while to look into it. Okay, so it wasn't that easy.
And you're interviewing the chief. We're having a food drive, I think, for somehow or another law enforcement quits eating donuts this month or something. Is that what we're doing?
That's exactly it. Donut strike for Manna. We'll be at Channel 3 here in about an hour.
Oh, it's like, oh, we are? Story of my life.
And we've talked about trying to do a collection box or something here in City Hall, see if we can, help out. So we're going to kind of gear that up. Y'all are being easy on me. Escape rolled out last week, so you had a lot of interesting ideas being floated about some of the projects that they have in mind. I think we continue to meet with their team and talk about, how we might fund some of those projects. There's some expensive suggestions in that group.
Have you heard a cost estimate yet?
I think we've got a meeting later in the week. I mean, I'm it's in the mid 30 million range between the two projects, Bruce Beach and Cedar Street. So, Andy was here last week. The budget does not contain, I know y'all probably heard that there's some conversation going on about, refinancing some of the CRA debt that would produce some additional revenue. That hasn't gone to council yet. That's not in the budget. When it gets to them, we'll figure out. There's some other exciting organizational stuff. We've met with Helen Gibson with CRA. There's I believe the CRA board this coming month is going to discuss having CRA back under the mayor's staff, and we kind of show Helen reporting up to Mr. Fiedler when he gets here. He has a lot of CRA experience and construction management experience. I'd like to see us as an organization be better at that, managing some of these projects that are coming forward. It's real hard for directors to keep everything working properly and be on top of major capital projects. At the same time, we struggle out at the airport with all the activity at the airport. Dan's having a real hard time. We're still actively recruiting for a deputy director out there. Dan needs the help. Brian's got a lot of projects coming up, just obviously soccer fields. Luckily that hadn't come up yet this morning, so, but and we have other projects that are important that we have to figure out how to do a good job of managing. So something we'll focus on with Garrett when he gets here. Everybody's awful quiet. Awful quiet.
In the summary document, will we have a copy of the suggested organizational chart?
I don't know if the org chart is in the summary.
It's not, but we can give them one if you want.
Yeah.
We got it.
We request it.
If I have it, you can get it.
Thank you.
You know that. So I think I've rolled it out there several times. So I'm excited for Garrett to get here. Keith will move back over to the administrative enterprise side of the house, and for the first time in a while, we'll have an organizational structure we think will work and serve the citizens and the mayor. The mayor usually says, well, if there are no more questions, then we'll wrap it up. Thank you for everybody for coming and everything.